Hello, game designers, and welcome back to part 2 of writing C# scripts in Unity. We're going to jump right back into our first script in MonoDevelop, where we left off last time. We talked about declaring variables and giving those variables value, and then using those variables throughout the program. So that's what we're going to do in this lesson. So the first thing I want you to see is how we use the console here in Unity, where we can get information to report there. So I'm just going to type in debug.log, and then in parentheses I'm going to put in a quote. Let's say, "Hello world," something like that, in quotation marks. This is known as a string in programming. Something within quotation marks, basically read by the program as text and not as numerical values. So if we don't want the program to do math with numbers, we can put the numbers inside of quotation marks and make it a string. So here's debug log hello world. So when I save that, file save, and I go over here to Unity and I press the play button, I can go to the console, and there it says hello world. You can see it there. So whenever I write in a debug log at any point in the program, it's going to report it to the console like that. So that's kind of helpful. So you say, well, how can we use that? Well, let's look at some ways that we can use that. We can actually get it to report what the value of a variable is at a given time. So I can type in health, debug log health, and it's not going to type health in because I don't have it in quotation marks. So what is it reading that as? It's reading it as the public int health, which when we run this, it should give us a 30 in the console. So let's save that, file save, go back here and run it, and look at our console when Unity decides to start, and there we go, 30, right? So and you can see these kind of stack up, so I can always just hit clear to get rid of them and start over again. But very important, I always want to stop the game when I've got it in play mode. I always want to hit that play button again to stop the game, because as long as it's in play mode, it won't let me make any other changes to the game. Alright, so we got our debug log. We understand what's going on with that. We don't need that to happen in the beginning. What we're going to do is we're going to see if we can write a program that gets a collision event to happen, or to detect a collision. Well, if we're going to have a collision, we need more than one object, wouldn't you say? Alright, so right now we've got this cube, and he's very lovely, our little cube, but he's awful lonely on the stage here. There's not much else going on in our game. And you'll notice he has our first script associated with him, and he's got what's called a box collider, which is like an imaginary bounding box around the outside of that object that we can use in Unity to detect collisions with other objects, which is very important in video games, as you know, right? Anything from detecting a bullet hitting us to an obstacle hitting us, or our weapons hitting some other enemy or something along those lines. It all revolves around collisions. So let's get another game object in here. Let's get a 3D, let's get another cube in here, and we'll just, it just puts it right on top of the other one. So we're just going to rise that up a little bit, and then I'm going to use Control D to duplicate that one, and now I've got two different jobbies here. And what I want is I want to offset them a little bit like this, so that when they fall, they're both going to be able to fall and hit the one below. If I want to check that out, I could always go to this little gizmo up here and click on the Y, so that's going to put me on a top view above everything. Oh yeah, that shows me right there that these are actually going to fall, but they're not going to hit each other. They'll just hit the box below and then fall to the sides. Now if I were to hit play right now, they're actually not going to do anything. Right, as you can see, they do nothing. So what I want to do instead of that is I want to make sure that these fall. And one of the things that you can add to them that will make them fall, it'll give them some physics, is you can add what's called a rigid body. So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to select this cube, and then I'm going to come down here to the inspector and go to add component and type in rigid or just RIGI, and it automatically finishes it for me. And since this is a 3D game, I don't want rigid body 2D, I want just rigid body, and it adds that to that shape. Now I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to do the same thing, add component, and you see, because I just used it, it's already there, and I can add that rigid body. Okay, so now when I hit play, these should fall and hit the cube below, and there they go, and they go falling off into infinity. Okay, so we've got something happening in our game where we have collisions between our little player and these other items in the game. So let's write something in our script that's going to, get that rolling. So this is a really cool feature where you can create these void functions, write these functions, but one of them is on collision enter, and then in parentheses you're going to type in collision space other. So whenever this object collides with any other object, whatever is in between these curly braces is going to happen. So you'll notice it has its own set of curly braces, just like the update method, just like the start method. This method has the same open and close parentheses, or if you want to call these functions, methods, whatever you want to call them. It's really interchangeable. Okay, so what do we want to have happen on the collision between these objects? Well, why don't we do some math with the health? Why don't we take away some of the health? So why don't we start with a health of, rather than 30, let's start with a health of 10. And let's say whenever there's a collision between our player and some other object, we're going to say health is now equal to health minus 5, semicolon. So we're taking that variable that used to be worth 10, and when the first collision happens, it's then going to be worth 5, right? So it says the new value of health is going to be whatever health is minus 5. Now let's see if we can watch that happen. So if I go debug.log and then health, I can get my console every time this collision happens in here. I can get my console to update and tell me what the new value of health is. Okay, let's try that out. So I'm going to hit Control S to save and go back to my game here, and I'm going to clear my console, and I'm going to hit play. And I'm going to hit play. Oh, there we go. And so I'm looking at my console here at 25 and then 20. Okay, so it never changed the, it didn't get the memo about changing the value of health. So we got to take a look at that. It kept health at 30. So maybe that's because I had it set at health 30 out in the inspector. Let's take a look. So I'm going to come back out here and clear this, and we're going to go back to a view where I can see my, okay, let's go to this view. There's my player, and yep, for sure it says 30 here. Let's set that to 10. All right, and then play again and see what we get down here. Boom, 5 and then 0. Okay, so cool, it worked. Now, maybe we could have something happen when, when it gets to 0, right? When health gets to 0, maybe we should have this guy disappear, right? Okay, this is probably enough for this one. We've got this updating. We can see how variables work and how we can change their values. Let's hold off on that until the next. In the next lesson, we'll use a conditional, which is an if-then statement, to have sort of a cause and effect relationship happen. If this happens, then do this. In other words, if health reaches 0, what should happen then? Maybe my player disappears. Okay, so thanks for hanging out and watching, and I wish you luck on your game and learning Unity, and it's just one step at a time. Be patient and keep practicing, and good things will happen. All right? Thanks for watching.